there a company name for England? I mean, we know we have a corporation here. Is there a corporation there as well?
Well, it's not a corporation like, well, it is. It's a divine right of kings. They had their own corporation, if you wanted to call it a corporation.
Okay.
But over here, you can go on to Manta or Dun & Bradstreet, and you can type in the United States and find out that it is a corporation.
That is true, and folks, you can do that. And again, as Iman said, go to Manta, that's MANTA.com. I would also say Veromi.net, and you can type in, well, what did you type in to find out that Manta came up?
When you go to Manta, up in the upper left-hand corner, it says type in the name of your corporation. Well, you can type in the United States, the IRS, the judiciary of the United States, the judiciary of any state. You can even type in the Congress or the Senate of the United States, and you will find out that they are a private corporation. It will tell you when it was created, how many people there are, who is the head CEO, and the whole 9 yards.
Well, the rich part of that is because then they are not under any kind of control by we, the plebiscite.
That's right, because we never created the Constitution. It was created by the British Crown dictating to the Founding Fathers that this is what they were to write in the Constitution. Now, if this is a feigned war that they have, the Revolutionary War, we never won it, by the way. And that can be proven. Montgomery has proven it, and I've proven it on ATG Press. And the good thing that a lot of people can do is go to the ATG Press and go to Knowledge and Freedom and scroll down till you get the 25 answers to the 25 questions presented to James Montgomery. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to go read the rest of they're pretty long articles. And they're actually the real documents from the king, from the Pope, and from any dignitary and any government. And he actually put the exact readings into the Pope, into the document that he was doing, the article, and it's like you're back in those days reading exactly what they said, because he put it word for word, the direct quotes right out of it, instead of putting it in like his words, okay, because he didn't want to miss anything, and that's how he put it in there. So everything you read is actual documents from President Washington and everything, and so on and so forth.
All right. So, in response to the individual claimant of right who asked about, is there a corporate name or company name equivalent to England?
Well, none for England, no.
No, but we still deal with.
Oh well, yeah. If you want to, in the law of nations, say you want to say it's the United Kingdom, well, that's a corporation of the king. That's plain and simple. It's no longer a corporation belonging to the king because it belongs to the Pope. But it actually, in retrospect, it belongs to the crown, because the king and the Pope, when they were fighting, and then the Crusades went on, they fronted both of those parties. And they are both beholden to the crown.
All right, we'll get more involved with the Pope later on. That's for a little bit later. It won't make as much sense.
Right.
Unless we go where we're going to go now. And let me go back to the outline, which is the American Revolution. I would contend that we didn't win it.
No.
Okay. And you were talking before about King George, and the thing is, and somebody also emailed me, who I believe is listening right now from the UK, stating that, isn't it interesting that King George referred to himself in the drafting of the Treaty of Paris, that he was the elector of the Holy Roman Empire and of America.
Right.
Now, the thing is, if you win a war, you draft the terms.
Yes.
If we won the revolution, why is King George laying out the yada-yada?
Yeah, because he really didn't win it. And put it this way. In 1215, when he turned everything over to the Pope, all right, he had no kingdom. He had to turn his whole kingdom and all the subjects over to the Pope.
All right, then we have to stop there because people are going to freak out when they hear this.
Yeah.
Why did he have to turn it over to the Pope?
Okay, because the Pope was excommunicated, and what he did was he was so afraid that he would lose his soul and wouldn't go to heaven that the Pope cut him a deal and says, I will recommunicate your soul so it will go to heaven, but in turn you must turn over all your subjects and all your kingdom to me.
Which king was worried that he'd go to hell? Was it George?
Yeah, King George. That was, darn it, I can't think. There was Benedict and George. And George was the one that died. I think it was Benedict that right after that took over.
Well, how far back are we going century-wise?
1215.
Oh, geez, okay.
Yeah, this is 1215. And because, see, the king didn't want to have Stephen Langton, who was the Archbishop of the Church of England, totally separate from England. And he hated him and didn't want him to come in, and this is what the big fight was in 1213. And he finally had to recapitulate because that's when the Pope was fighting England. And the bank, the crown, was actually the king's exchequer, told him that, we got a fight going on between you guys, and we're fronting you the money, both of you. So that's how they do it today, and that's why he recapitulated and allowed the Archbishop Langton to come in to be the head of the Church of England. And then right after that is when he was excommunicated, his soul, and that's when the Pope read him out of Scriptures what would happen to him, and the only time the Pope ever did it. And so that put the fear of God into the king, and he relented and turned all of his property and all of his subjects over. Okay, now let's move up to 1783. Okay?
Okay.
Now what happened in 1783 is if the Pope had turned all of his property over, how can he release his subjects over here and then let his land go when it was owned by someone else? He can't. It's in law. It's impossibility because it's international law. So what happened was when he wrote the Treaty of Peace in 1783, okay?
This is King George who wrote that.
Yeah. And,
right.
And that's why when he wrote it, he dictated all the parameters, and if you notice when you read in there, and this is what people have to understand, that it's not the words that you see as themselves being merged, but it's the terms under legal doctrination that sets the matter, and the king then took charge of everything and laid out the terms of the Treaty of Peace. It wasn't like MacArthur did in 1945 on the battleship on the deck when he had Japan's prime minister there and everybody.
In Missouri, yeah. Mm-hmm.
He dictated the terms
yeah.
and said Japan couldn't have an army, they couldn't have this, they couldn't have that, they'd have to be occupied for so many years and everything. Well, the king dictated to the people that was sent over there, Adams and Jay and all them, and instead of Adams and Jay saying, look, you took away this and this and this and this, you wouldn't let us do this, screw you, here's what we're going to do. You don't see that in the Treaty of Peace.
No.
And he then could not give up the land, so what he did is he took and said that, okay, I own all the mineral rights of gold, silver, and copper. Well, okay. If someone owns the mineral rights, they own the property because whoever rents that property, the king can come in and drill down and
do what they wish
and mine what they want out of the land, and you have no say. Even though you got a deed to the topsoil of the land, you don't have a deed to the mineral rights.
All right. So then, would I be accurate in saying, as I have supposed, independent of what we've talked about, that whenever you look at your mortgage and such,
right,
in capped letters and stuff, you're still a tenant.
Oh, yeah, because the mortgage, if you look at it, what is a mortgage when you break the word down? Mort is...
Until death.
Yeah, a mort, it's the same as mortmain. It's a dead man's hand. And what happened was so many people in England was having and turning over their property to the church that the king had to stop it because all of his property was going to the church. You know, the Pope was slowly gaining property this way, and that's why they call it mortmain, which translates over into the United States as a mortgage. It's a dead man's hand of the land, which he can give to anybody he wants. And the king didn't like that, so he stopped the mortmain, and they could no longer do it.
All right, let me stop right there also. And Big Jim, who's producing this show, says, "You mean I'm still renting?"
Yeah,
you're right, Jim.
Oh yeah, he's still renting because he's a tenant. If you look at your property deed, why do you get title insurance? Does anybody know that? Why you get title insurance?
Because if something bad happens to your house.
Well, yeah, but when you get title insurance, it goes through international law. It goes through banking, it goes through insurance, which is Admiralty principles of maritime jurisdiction, and therefore the state owns that because their name is on that deed. And they are protected by title insurance. It's not that you are protected, but it is the state that is protected. And one man in North Carolina found this out, and he has been trying for I don't know how long, because when he turned it over to the attorney went right down and got title insurance on it, and he forbid them to do that, and he didn't know that this attorney did it. So he went back, and that's when he found out that the state has an interest in your title insurance because it is named as part of the insurer or a loss payee.
All right, I want to do a little business with you before you do that, but we got a last question here I want to inject into our discussion. And a listener said, I thought Adams and Jay wrote the Treaty of 93, but that's 83 I think he's talking about, isn't it?
No, it was 1992. 1792 was the Jay Treaty.
Okay, well, good. Well, then,
they went back over into England.
Right, good point.
To straighten this out. And they couldn't really straighten it out because that's when Jay, they're all lawyers. You know, Adams and Jay and all those people that went over there, they're all lawyers.
Yeah.
You know, they're all from the British Crown. Well, actually, they're from the Crown Temple, which was the Exchequer's legal department.
Now, let me ask you this. When they bear that title and they have that office, does that transcend national boundaries?
Yes.
So they're lawyers up beyond anything else?
Right.
Okay. All right. Please continue. Thank you.
And so when they couldn't settle it out in 1792, what happened in 1812?
We had another war with England.
Now, under international law, when you go in and read it, anybody can go and pick international law under war and treaty. Now, if you read that, you will find that any warring nations, two of them, the only way that you can prevent and end a war is by treaty. The United States, any war it has to do, and I've got the book on it, it says that in order to end any war, there must be a treaty. It can't be Congress declaring that's the end of war. It has to be by treaty.
Now, let me ask you this. The reason why it can't be by Congress is that when you deal with a treaty, you're dealing with other nations.
Yes, that's right.
It isn't endemic to a certain country. You're dealing with another one.
Right.
Therefore, this has to go outside the purview of Congress.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Now, what happened was, when another nation, when either of the two nations create a war, that eliminates all treaties that proceeded right after the war, the first war.
Okay.
All right? So that meant the Treaty of 1783 is nulled. The Treaty of 1792 was nulled. And what does it revert back to? It reverts back to the Declaration of Rights of Virginia of 1603.
Okay.
And that means it puts everybody back to under British rule. It's British soil. And that's it. It's done.
Okay, so then we just got something in the chat room saying
it will tell you when it was created,
right.
how many people there are, who is the head CEO, and the whole 9 yards.
Well, the rich part of that is because then they are not under any kind of control by we, the plebiscite.
That's right, because we never created a constitution. It was created by, up in the upper left-hand corner, it says type in the name of your corporation. Well, you can type in the United States, the IRS, the judiciary of the United States, the judiciary of any state. You can even type in the Congress or the Senate of the United States, and you will find out that they are a private corporation. The British Crown dictating to the Founding Fathers that this is what they were to write in the Constitution. Now, if this is a feigned war that they have, the Revolutionary War, we never won it, by the way. That can be proven. Montgomery has proven it, and I've proven it on ATG, Manta or Dun & Bradstreet, and you can type in the United States and find out that it is a corporation.
That is true, and folks, you can do that. And again, as Iman said, go to Manta, that's MANTA.com. I would also say Veromi.net, and you can type in, well, what did you type in to find out that Manta came up?
When you go to Manta,
is there a company name for England? I mean, we know we have a corporation here. Is there a corporation there as well?
Well, it's not a corporation like, well, it is. It's a divine right of kings. They had their own corporation, if you wanted to call it a corporation.
Okay.
But over here, you can go on to